Hello and welcome to my story. Look, I've had to write some notes because this happened when I was 25, and I do remember soon after this event I wrote it all down, and I'll tell you I'm so glad I did now because my memory is just not as good as it would be. But let me just say, what I'm about to share is the absolute truth as I remember it and wrote it all down. Now, at the time of this encounter, I was a very competent thief. I was a pretty lousy gambler. That's probably why I was a pretty good thief. I was a liar. I was a man without conscience. I didn't care who I hurt. I had an extremely violent and short temper. And I'd just swing my fists if I couldn't get my own way or win an argument. So that's where I was at in my life. I'd never been to church or even believed in it. I mean, why? I had no time for it. Thought it offending was for old ladies and old men, you know. But my mother, she did. And she was a regular churchgoer, and unbeknown to me, had just been crying out to God for weeks and months and maybe even years, I don't know. But basically she said, look, Lord, he's out of control, deal with him. But actually, without what I'm about to share with you, I was definitely heading for a life in prison. I'm fairly sure that I'd stolen money from my parents, from my brother, from my work colleagues, actually stole money from the post office. In fact, anywhere I could get money just to feed this gambling addiction. This hurts, but I once lay in my bed listening to my mother crying her heart out because of all the money I'd stolen from the house. And I clearly remember just laying there and laughing. Yeah, well, it's true, God needed to come. So this is what happened. It was the summer of 1970. It was very hot. I can't remember the exact date. I just remember that the day was hot. And I remember parking my bike after a long ride home from work. And I was walking towards my front door. I had my key in hand. And somehow I seemed to slip off my jacket and my helmet all at the same time. I unlocked the front door and just let it bang shut behind me. Then I tossed my leather jacket and crash helmet into the nearest chair. And I headed across the room. My intention, I think, was to put on some records. And it was then it began. I suddenly felt something was different in this room. And then I realised I was not alone. And without warning, my whole body began to shake, a trembling that seemed to stem from deep within my bones and just overtook my whole body. And if I thought anything at this time, and is a vague recollection, I actually wondered if I was sick. I'd caught something and that's why I was shaking. But as my legs became weaker and weaker, I definitely felt the distinct sensation of a pair of warm but very strong hands pushing into the back of my knees, forcing me into a kneeling position. I wasn't actually afraid, but it was disturbing me because I had no control over it whatsoever. I couldn't stop what was happening to me, and I sort of knew I couldn't. And then I hit the floor in a sort of slow motion. You know, when you see a movie on the telly and they go into slow motion, it was a bit like that, really. So I hit the floor very slowly. But it was then I saw him, and I have to say him, but it was a light, a vapor, yet it was him. And here's the thing, I knew it was him. I even knew his name, and that was impossible. Yet somehow I knew that this light, this vapor, this whatever, was Jesus Christ, standing, shimmering. He was solid, but he was also transparent. I couldn't really tell. I only knew that somehow I knew who he was. And then I realised he was moving closer to me. I wasn't sure whether I could move or not, but in any case, it was now more a case I didn't want to move. And I didn't know why to that either. As he moved closer, I felt a wave of gentle peace that flowed over and over me. Not so much my body, but my inner being. And that was real to touch as anything I've ever felt. I could see this shimmering light, but it was definitely tangible. I could see through it. And this peace was in me and outside of me all at the same time. As this gentle peace just kept coming and coming, it suddenly hit me. I wasn't in my front room. Look, honestly, I have no idea where I was, but for some reason, even then I didn't care and I wasn't frightened, but I was definitely not in my room. And the peace kept covering me inside and out, now kept going on. And then another wave started. And it was a pure liquid. It was leaving him, yet it was coming towards me. I couldn't see it. I couldn't describe it. I couldn't feel it or sense it. And I couldn't touch it, and I didn't try. But it was definitely hitting me, touching me. It was like a cleansing liquid coming from him, yet it was dwelling up from deep within me, washing, cleansing, purifying and refreshing. Every part of my soul and spirit felt as though it was being washed. However, during that unexplainable, something else started. And without warning, I felt this incredible sorrow. In fact, it was a deep disgust at myself, a shame, all at the same time covering me like a dark black cloud or something. And then I actually heard, well, I thought, let me say that, I thought someone had turned on a huge TV screen, because I saw my life as it was, as it had been, and it was outside of him, outside to this Jesus who now stood in front of me. This feeling of disgust at myself was horrible, and I remember I didn't like it at all. I started to cry, and then I wept with tears that stung like sharp needles. Honestly, the tears that rolled down my face burnt as they dropped into my hands and dripped, going through my jeans and onto my legs. And I could actually feel the heat from these tears as they hit my legs. As I wept, the more thorough this cleansing seemed to be, purer and purer, again rolling over me, welling up from inside of me like pools of transparent love. It was coming from him, I'm absolutely certain. As this amazing cleansing progress was going on, I started to feel something else. It was faint at first, like a tiny trickle of water into a stream, barely noticeable. But a joy began to grow in me. I could feel it growing, like the warmth of a log fire on a cold night. As it flowed within me, it began to invade every part of me, and then suddenly, without warning, it reached this sort of peak, exploding like the eruption of a volcano, spilling over into this stupid laughter. Never or since have I laughed like this. It was guttural from the belly of my soul. I now know, and it's taken a long time to find out, it was the joy of my spirit finding its creator, who still stood right in front of me. I knew this was Jesus. However, he actually was starting to move even closer. Or was it me moving? I didn't really know. I only knew that a new sensation was beginning. Again, it was coming from him, but it was welling up within me, and it was almost too much to bear. And I sort of felt like my insides were paper thin tissues, trying to hold back an ocean. It was and still is unexplainable in human words, because actually there aren't any, but this was love. Not a human love. This was, as I said, a love from the Creator to the created. And I was the recipient of this incredible, powerful, beautiful love. It was breaking me. It was healing me. It was purifying me. It was hurting me. And somehow it was caressing me. And I remember laughing and crying. And I cried out to speak. And all that came out was a language I'd never heard of, or learnt, or even heard. It was absolutely beautiful. And I thought it was words of love, of exaltation, of pure understanding between my spirit and the Spirit of the living God. In an instant, we were one. We were separate, but we were one. We were the past, we were the present, we were the future, we were all things. Yet I felt I was nothing in his presence, his glory and his love. And still, this beautiful, amazing language of heaven poured out of me. Somewhere, I think deep within my conscience, I could hear the words, and they were getting clearer and clearer. They were in English. They were prayers. They were knowledge. They were the wisdom of the ages, from the beginning to the end of all words. I knew without doubt this was God causing my human spirit to be reborn of his spirit, the spirit of the risen Christ. This experience didn't just fade slowly or just disappear. It just stopped. It ended abruptly. It was gone. And I was just left kneeling in a daze. The room was the same. My jacket, my helmet was there. Exactly where I'd thrown them. But what was different was me. I was at peace. I felt I now had a sense of purpose, a contentment. And I knew my way forward in life was to seek him out and to serve him in any way I could. The rest, of course, is history. And I hope in some small way my story might help you, because what am I, 25, 70 now, I was 25 then. That's a lot of years. And I can't remember everything exactly, but the memories of it are still retained within me. And if I'm having a real down day, often that image of Jesus will brighten my day. Look, this was and is and always will be my testimony of the day Jesus turned up in my living room and turned my life around in an instant. And even just reading this back to you has amazed me, the way God has came and just let me see him. It was amazing. Look, God bless you. I know it's hard when somebody else tells you a story. Well, is he a good storyteller? Is he making this up? I promise you, with all I can promise, that, as I said, this is the absolute truth of how I remembered it. Thank you very much for your time, and thank you very much for listening as well. It's been a pleasure just sharing with you all.